Well, very good evening to you. You're very welcome back to the EML, the Esports Masters League, for round number 2 here at the Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit de Catalunya. My name is Graham, and joining me tonight to capture the League 2 action, it is Storm. Hello, sir. How are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Spain, obviously a tricky track, as we know from the real life F1 that we saw earlier on in the season, but these drivers will know it very well, I'm sure, as it is on many calendars for many different leagues. But obviously we don't know the weather at the moment because obviously it won't tell us. But I would like to see a wet Spain. I think it will just offer a little bit more entertainment for obviously us in the comms box, but also for the viewers as well.
Absolutely, and I feel like pre-patch this track in particular has claimed a bit of a more recent reputation as a bit of a race of attrition, because I've seen a few league races around here pre-patch, and the people were really struggling with the curb. So hopefully, post-patch, curbs seem to be dumbed down a bit. Hopefully, we can get a bit more clean action than we've seen in the recent past.
Yeah, I think now obviously the first patch is now kind of out the way, which is one of the major ones. I think obviously the curbs may still obviously play a factor. Obviously, we know turn 10, I think it is, or no, it's the last chicane. Obviously, hasn't been reprofiled to what it is in real life, unfortunately. So we won't see that, but it still provides great racing. So it's all over to the drivers.
Absolutely. And speaking of the drivers, we're just going to do a quick recap on the events of the previous round, in case you forgot it. It was a while ago at Bahrain. Just looking at the podium. So last time around it was Felix who took the win ahead of CPI Marcel and NSR Thomas then for NSR. And so we'll go to the standings as they stand after round number 1. Is CPI on 38 points ahead of QVR on 30 points in second, tied with the SW on 30 points as well. Then in fourth you've Neverlast Racing on 25 points, TTG Racing Team 22 points in fifth, shortly followed by Norway Scuderia NSR on 20 points in sixth. A bit of a gap then to BNL, who are on 11 points in seventh, but just behind them are OWR on 10 points, then TRT Academy on 1 point, and ECOS then are on minus 10 points. So making up to do in this round here.
Yeah, just to update you, ECOS are actually on minus 15.
Oh, it's 15, excuse me.
Yeah, so, and CPI Academy, I'm guessing that is with the A, unfortunately haven't scored any points, but they have got CPI Reds, 2K and Hecht here, both drivers that I know quite well, so they will be hopefully looking to get some points. Obviously, I know NLR, obviously Neverlast Racing. They've got a very good driver in the sim, which is Axel. I've seen him in other leagues and events, and he can produce when the time is needed for his team. Obviously, I've seen the others like Mr. Pop, Felix 1. Obviously, we know Ivor from obviously commentary in F3. He will look for revenge, I think, from his F4 race last week, as he got a drive-through. No fault of his own, but he'll be looking for redemption from that, I think.
I was there. He was the car behind me when it happened. Apologies for the standings. I'm just looking at the graphic then, so it wasn't updated as it turns out. So apologies about that. But definitely, yeah. Mike's been knocking on the door of some really good results, including here at Spain not too long ago in TTML F4. He was knocking on the door of a good result that day as well, and it just kind of slipped away late on. So I think he's definitely got some pace in there, and it's just it's one thing, isn't it, to have the pace, another thing to just hook up that result that you know you're capable of.
Yeah, I think also with Spain, one mistake and you could lose, what maybe more than one position, or you can lose 5-10 seconds. It's a track that you want the grid position. You don't want to be at the back, because if it's going to be obviously it's 33 laps, obviously half distance, you don't want to be at the back of the grid. You want to be at the front fighting, because if there is a safety car, you're not going to be in that place where you're just stuck. Obviously the midfield can be quite an interesting one, but I think you want to be more at the front.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those tracks where there are some tracks where you would, sacrifice track position for the sake of the strategy. But here, given how difficult it can be to overtake around Spain, yeah, I think you're right in prioritizing track position. I think definitely that is a way to go here. We've seen, despite how long that main straight is, just the nature of that last sector, it kind of lends itself difficult to follow. You need a good amount of time to overtake. And the other variable that you mentioned there is the safety car, and that's going to be fascinating to see how that plays a part in the strategy as well.
Yeah, so just obviously looking over the stewards, the reason why ECOS are -15, they failed to submit a driver lineup before the deadline, and that it looks to be 5-point deduction in the championship standings, so that's why it is -15. Obviously they've got one driver here tonight, I believe they are still waiting for their second one, but yeah, Spain can offer, I think, with the right drivers on, it can offer that entertaining race. Some people do say it can be a little bit boring, but it's the track that, we saw Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton have that battle, so
I think you can get good racing anywhere, to be honest. It's like,
yeah,
there are some tracks that definitely lend itself more to good side-by-side action, but I think in league racing anything is possible with safety cars and different strategies, especially around here where the tyres are a very interesting kind of case here, but we can kind of get into that as we, as I guess it becomes more relevant. But for now, we're getting ready to go into the start of qualifying. Just final seconds ticking down. We are going with 18 drivers, and hopefully they'll give us a good show.
Yeah, they are missing 2 drivers, which I believe is an ECOS driver, and I believe there's another one. I have noticed since the recent patch, track warnings are given out in multiples for one corner. It's very noticeable at the new track, which is Portimao. Turn 3, it's giving 3 warnings at once and then a penalty. So maybe just want to have a look at, the track warnings this evening, just to make sure nobody's having that same issue. But it might just be Portimao that is having that issue.
I know track limits can be fairly stingy around here anyway. You're talking about, now there's a few places it can happen. It can happen, of course, heading into through turns 1 and 2, depending on your line. Turn 3, if you run wide, it can be very stingy around there. Heading up the hill to turns 7 and 8 as well, that little chicane, and that looks like certainly an overcast setting. Turn 9 as well, entry, exit. So there's more than a few places here you can actually pick up warnings and penalties. So I do think it will be a factor heading into this one.
Yeah, and I think also coming out of turn 1, going into turn 2, if you don't get that entry and exit right, you can spin on that curb as well. So it is going to be an interesting one. Obviously, tyre choice is very key round here because of the safety car.
Absolutely, and I have found, in my personal experience, I have found the soft tyre to be probably the best overall tyre in terms of reliability and consistency, which hasn't always been the case around this track. It's been a very, very precarious tyre that has not lasted particularly well, which is why some people have in the past started on mediums. But I find this time around it is a reliable race tyre to lean upon. So it'll be interesting to see how many people, for how many people this might be the first go around, and they might learn as they go along.
Yeah, because obviously a few of the drivers obviously haven't maybe tested this track since the patch has been, because obviously they'll be practicing, I'm guessing, other tracks for other races. But I think we may see 1-2 DNFs, because obviously a few of the corners can cause you to spin. Unfortunately, obviously lap 1 will be very crucial.
Absolutely, and I believe the other driver missing is a QVR driver by the looks of it. It looks like just the one, unless I'm blind, only the one QVR.
No, it is one QVR. So
unfortunate, because they're in a decent standing, I believe, in the championship. But we're going to go on board with Pariah, who is going to be our first man across the flying lap. Long run down to turn. We'll take you through this one on board. Long run down to turn 1. Always getting on the grass there before he even wants to get to this curb, which he uses half of. Nice and clean. Avoids the curb on the exit there of turn 2. And then you want to try and hug that long right, minimise the amount of track covered. Heads down towards turn 4, 21.8 as a first sector. not too shabby. Very clean lap so far, and I suppose that's really what you want to try and do for your first banker. I think it's so important to get a nice clean lap in to build on.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, he has got quite a bit of traffic in front of him that may hamper his first banker lap. I'm just wondering if Jefton is QVR, because he's got no name to his, but he may be the one that's the QVR driver. I don't think he would be Ecos, because they would have their names put in. So as the NSR driver is going to come through the final chicane to complete the lap, he will be the first driver to set a flying lap, and he is going to cross the line, not invalid, and that is going to be a 1:17.3, sector 3 yellow flags.
So we'll see how that stacks up as we go along. With just regard QVR, they have the reserves were their other drivers was QVR Nico, and their reserve was QVR Chill. So they all had QVR in the name. Is basically the point I'm trying to. Try and get across as NSR Thomas 17 flat moves up into provisional pole, but quickly undone by Colin for ESW 16.9. So first man into the 16s. What kind of lap times do you think we'll be expecting here today? It's kind of hard to 16.4 from Felix. It's been kind of hard to predict since the patch.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to judge the times, because obviously this is after the first patch, but I reckon we will be into the high 15s. Maybe somebody might, if they can get a good part of the track where it is clear, once everybody set their banker laps, then you might get that one driver that might just hit it on the nail and just get that perfect lap.
You're not too far off, because both Smalley and Mr. Popsky, sorry, that was a bit of a mouthful. Both of the 16-1s very, very close together. There's 12,000 separating those two, so they're possibly a 15.9, possibly in the offing here, but a very, very good start for, I believe, because he's one of the few drivers that actually don't have their team name in their PSN names, but that's for TRT.
Yeah, as I mentioned, that Dan has gone into the 15s and sets the provisional pole time of a 1:15.8 for BNL. I believe that is one of the leagues that, esports team, part of a league that is showcased on League Racing TV.
A couple of bad laps flying through, Slash being one of them. I think he's just actually going to start again. Is Slash, I'm expecting a quick time here from Slash. I believe he is one of the possibly one of the quicker cars on the grid, but he's got some traffic to contend with as people kind of filter out for their second runs. How would you personally play your qualifying run? Because personally, I like to go on maybe just a few runs and save those extra tires for the race, because you never quite know what the race might throw up, that you might need a set of tires that you may have squandered in qualifying.
Well, this might sound the most stupid thing that I've ever seen or heard someone say. I've seen a few drivers now starting to do in qualifying the intermediate tyre. This does save a fresh set of softs or mediums. I have seen it, so I don't think anybody obviously within the rules would try and do it, but it wouldn't be surprising. We'd just see that one driver just so they can get a feel of the track, feel of the tyre and everything. But obviously, as we saw with Lando Norris in Russia, the wet tyre, intermediate tyre on a dry track is probably the same comparison as Slash invalidates again. At this point, he is wearing the tyre down, which is not a good idea. Obviously, he's losing the fuel as well, because he's not going to have much fuel on his third run.
Yeah, very much. You don't want to rack up too much tyre wear on these softs. Although, again, like I said before, this year the softs are quite a reliable tyre, but even so, you do not want to be taking 3 attempts to get 1 flying lap in. So I imagine this will be an in lap for Slash, unless he's going again. His ERS is very low, but no, indeed, he is just recovering. So I imagine he'll be back to the box. Reach kind of a low point in qualifying here. Majority of people now actually just exiting the pits, just begin their second runs.
Yeah, as I'm just trying to get a weather update from the drivers that are in the pits, so we know. But I think the DRS zones will be where we may see most of the overtaking. It is going to be a dry race, but there is a chance of rain, 16% chance of rain, so I highly doubt we will see any intermediate tyres, as Slash completely cuts the last 2 chicanes and goes into the pit, so that lap has been aborted. Nobody has beaten Dan at the moment. He is roughly around about 3/10 ahead of Smalley, so it's definitely an interesting one.
Absolutely, but the two TRT, I see this. Sorry, both. Yeah, I believe both TRT is about to begin their second run. See if there's any improvement to be found there. Need about just around 3/10 or so to get close to that 15.8. Going to go on board. Where is Smalley? There he is. We'll go on board for the second run as he heads into. He's a 10th up, 21.6 first sector, using the track limit there and the curb. So looking on the edge. I can't say I'm particularly wild about the helmet, but regardless, we shall move on as he negotiates the hill. Very easy to lose the back end through that section. How does he take turn 9? You can take a flat. It is a little bit on the edge. A safe lift for Smalley, and he's 2/10 up, so he's finding the improvements that he needs to find.
Yeah, I'm just riding on board with the other TTG driver, which is Robin93. He might be in the worst possible place because his teammate is not out to give him that potential slipstream if it was available. But he is currently in P14. He is 2 seconds off the front runners, but Smalley does go fastest with a 1:15.8.
His teammate comes across the line, improves his time, but not his position. Still third place into the 15th. Felix then also improves his time as NLR Axel goes quickest with a 15.6.
Yeah, so it is getting a bit hot in the times as NLR proving that they are up to the mark with setting the provisional pole time, but it is 8 minutes left on the clock. These are banker laps as they class them, so if anybody can go quicker than that 15.6, then yeah, I think we may be going into the low 15s. Maybe somebody might try and get a small gap window on the track for a high 14, but I don't know if that might be an impossible task.
We shall see. Just about 7 minutes 40 seconds left. A whole bunch of laps or cars on track. See if you can try and find one on a flying lap, or at least coming to the end of one. Where is got Slash bet to begin a lap. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to. A lot of people actually on their kind of cooldown laps. We've just seen a bunch of them fly in. So Slash there at the back, looking to get his lap in.
I'm just on board with ESW Colin. Obviously, he was previously at the top of the leaderboard. He is coming through the last chicane. He's having to deal with a lot of traffic. Hopefully, doesn't invalidate. He's now going to. Oh no, he's gone into the pits. So I think these are now drivers coming into the pits. NSR Thomas is going to come through. I suspect he will go to the pits. Yep, I think everybody is coming into the pits as the drivers have set their banker laps, but the 3 at the bottom have not at the moment. Oh, Jefton is out of qualifying. What has happened there?
He's lost it coming up the hill, coming out of turn 7 and 8, just past there with Slash, who's on his flying lap. Yeah, like I said, easy to lose the back end there, and it has cost him one of his wheels, and he will take no further part in this session.
Yeah, question to yourself. Being Spain, obviously the track is known for its understeer, as we've obviously seen there, and the tricky corners. Would you go for a more downforce setup, or would you kind of avoid putting a lot of downforce on?
It really depends on your personal philosophy, as Slash puts in a 16.6, put himself 8th place. Because some people will absolutely believe that their straight line speed is the most important thing and will sacrifice downforce to do it. Seems like this game there is a bit more of a reliance on downforce than previously. So I've always gone for something to feel the front end. So I would personally go on the downforce side, because aside from this long straight, there's not a ton of places you can really overtake, and I just think the lap time gained by having more downforce will put you in a better position long term. Personally speaking, I know, and even like I've still known people who've prioritized downforce and they still are absolutely fine heading down that main straight, because we've seen how DRS trains can open up here, and then if you're in a DRS train, it almost doesn't matter then how much downforce you put on. You've got that advantage that the other car behind you has.
Yeah, as the only Ecos driver, as I have been informed, their other driver that was supposed to be racing tonight is actually stuck on a bus, so he won't be participating tonight. But Ecos Raggy is in P6, so that is a good qualifying position for Ecos, and hopefully they can overturn that minus 15 point deficit and hopefully get themselves back into the mix in the championship.
Meanwhile, BNL Dan goes top once again, 15.6, a low 15.6. So it feels like we're kind of reaching our I guess close to the limit here, what's maybe possible. Probably 15.4, 15.5, unless someone has been completely hiding the pace, which I guess we'll find out soon enough. As you got Ecos, is that Rag? I'm not quite sure how to say that name, so I apologise for getting into the pits. Again, lull in qualifying. I have 4 minutes left. You've got a few people on laps, like I think Hecht here might be on a flying lap. Of course, it's a difficult part of the session now, because if you're caught on track and you complete the lap, you may not necessarily get enough time to go round, back in, and then back out again before the end of the session.
Yeah, I'm just curious why TTT Robin has gone for the medium compound tyre when his fastest time was on the soft compound tyre. Slash has gone for the mediums as well. So this could be quite interesting.
Interesting approach from Team TTG. If they're confident they got the pace to get into the top 10, perhaps. Cut-off is a 16.7, so there's a 1.1 second gap between the between first and 10th. Slash has got to improve on a 16.6. Robin will easily be able to improve on a 19.1 on mediums. It's just a matter of whether it will be enough to get inside top 10. And you have to say, only 3 minutes left, under 3 minutes left now. This is what they're committing to for their final runs. There's not enough time to come back in and back out again.
Yeah, obviously with the tricky... as one of the OWR drivers is now out of the race. I believe that is the same spot as Jefton.
It's just off the track, thankfully. Of course, a big distraction, of course, when another car goes off in front of you. How does that affect your focus on a flying lap, where you just want absolutely minimal distractions, and then having to worry about whether a car ghosts or not?
Yeah, I think it can put a driver off their lap if a car in front just DNFs. But yeah, as Dan has now retired. Is that in the pits, I believe?
I believe so. Because I don't see a car on the main straight here, so I'd imagine that he's just not got enough time, as Colin puts in a 16.2, puts himself in P6.
Yeah, as Felix 1, I believe, has... as Smalley, this could cause a bit of an issue, as he has spun right in the middle of the track. No, that's not Smalley, somebody else has.
Pariah, and I believe Smalley was the one approaching it.
Yeah, he was. I didn't realise I was actually sitting on board with Smalley, that I thought it was somebody else. So, CPI, they've got one driver, I believe, in the top 10, which, no, they haven't. They've got one driver in P11 and P14, so that is Hecht 21 in P11. He's in the pits at the moment, so he's going to have to come out now, I believe. Nope, he won't make the timer, but CPI Reds will make the timer, I believe. Let's see where he is on track. Yeah, he will make it, as he's going to come through into sector 2.
Smalley is boxing, so that is his qualifying over. Felix is just behind him. I'm not sure if he was obstructed there, was Felix, but he did go quicker. 15.8. Smalley was going very slowly through that middle sector as his teammate Pop. I'm really struggling with that. Popsky? I really don't know.
I just say Mr. Pop. It just saves the time.
Might not be a bad approach.
Yeah. I'm just going to ride on board with TTG Slash, just to see what he can do on these medium compound tyre, because they are the slower tyre out of the Pirelli range, which is obviously the C2, the C3 and the C4, the soft, medium and the hard. Obviously, I don't think we will see a lot of the hard tyres being used, as Robin has retired, so the mediums, he may have wasted a little bit of tyre life out of them. But I will write, as Slash has now invalidated, so that medium tyre run is not going to be any beneficial.
Very few cars on track for the end of the session. Everyone's seemingly finished their business very early, because it's only a handful of cars where you'd expect everyone to. Checker flag's only just come out, so you expect everyone to be flying away, but no such thing, because Axel's invalidated his lap. He's peeling into the pits. Slash, as you just mentioned, invalidated his lap. He's peeled into the pits. We got Ecos Rag, who has absolutely spun himself away in Sector 3, so he won't be improving. Where is QVR Maledictus? He is on a lap and he is improving. See what he can do. He's asked to back at the moment on a 127, so not really entirely representative time. And everyone else in front is boxing, so this should be, I think, unless there's a few cars behind, the final main bit of action. Where can Maledictus put himself? It's not going to be on pole position. It is going to be 11th place. Ooh, not a bad place at all to put yourself at all. 16.5 for the QVR man.
Yeah, I do apologise. There is a few sound technical issues coming from my side. It sounds like I'm a robot. It will hopefully sort itself out in a few minutes. Myself and TTG James believes it may be from the latest software update, but hopefully it doesn't go through the whole race. But just if anybody is wondering why I sound like a robot.
Strange, you sound perfectly good to me.
Yeah, I think it's coming through on the stream. As we're just waiting for ESW Ivor to pit and retire, I believe, which he has done, and I will hand you over to Graham for the qualifying results.
So it is BNL Dan who was on pole position with a 15.6 ahead. Smalley in second. LLR Axel then in third place. Only less than a tenth separating the top three. Should be very tasty indeed. As Felix then just behind in fourth place with a 15.8. Then Mr. Pop was it's a good suggestion. Is in fifth place. Colin then sixth. Thomas then seventh. CPI Reds in eighth. Ecos Rag in ninth, and OWR got rounding out the top 10 ahead of Maledictus, Slash, Hecht, Atlas Scopo. I forgot to press the X button. Iverburn Mike, Pariah, Jefton, and then Robin rounding out the 18 runners heading into this race.
Yeah, so I am going to ask you, probably from a driver's perspective, that if you are in that top three, maybe even the top five, what's your thoughts going down into turn one? Obviously, knowing Spain after turn one, it is that kind of S section that you kind of don't want to be dealing with, as it is kind of overcast.
Overcast heading in. Of course, yes, I know what you're mentioning, because this is one of the few tracks where pole position might not be the greatest advantage to have here than it would at other tracks. So if I'm someone in third, for example, or fifth even, want to get a nice slipstream heading down towards turn one, and I personally like the outside. I think it's a little safer, because if you're the car on the inside, sometimes what happens is you could get kind of swiped, unintentionally of course, by the car on the outside as they sweep in. The nature of the corner kind of changes outside to inside depending where you are, but I personally like the racing line heading down here, and just maybe just hug the curb. Try not to lean on too much in case to spin, but that would be my approach. You obviously want to make up as many places as possible, because we know overtaking can be a little tricky.
Yeah, I think going down to turn one, obviously we know that it can cause a a driver's worst nightmare and can cause an early night for some drivers. But tyre strategy, if you are outside the top 10, what would you go the alternative strategy, or would you, in this event, because obviously it's, you know, some of the top esports drivers from their respective teams, would you go for the soft compound tyre to gain them positions at the front?
I'll tell you what, if I was Maledictus, I would have considered it, but just looking at the strategy as it's turned out now, only one driver has chosen the soft compound tyres, and that is Jefton in 17th place. Everyone else, bar Hecht in 13th, has chosen the medium compound tyres. So, medium to hard, I assume, would be the way to go for those guys, but of course safety cars can change many different things.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we do have at least one safety car because of turn 1. Obviously we obviously know with this new patch and the new game that virtual safety cars can be upgraded to a full safety car, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one. But BNL, Dan, is your pole sitter for the Spanish Grand Prix in EML League 2 with Smalley in P2. Then we've got NLR Axel in third. Then he's got his teammate right behind him on the second row of the grid, which is X Felix 1. Then in fifth we've got Mr. Pop from TRT. Then we've got from Esports Wales we have ESW Colin R. Mason. Then in P7 we've got NSR Thomas. Then in P8 you've got CPI Reds from CPI Esports. Then in P9 you've got Ecos Raggy in the Ecos livery there. Then in P10, rounding off, I'm going to really struggle with this name. I think I'll leave that one to you.
Gott would have been my guess, but of course I could be wrong.
Yeah. And then the next one, why do people come up with the most difficult names for commentators? As the drivers are now going to come up to their grid slot, should I say, I'm going to hand you over to Graham for what will be lights out, and I suspect a very fantastic race in EML for League 2.
Lots of different strategies at play, always makes things interesting. Long run down to turn 1, 33 laps, and well, who really knows heading into a league race on F1 2021. We'll hop on board at least initially for the start on Axel from P3, get a sense of his launch off the line, and then as they make the long run down into turn 1, one of the longest on the calendar. Getting ready to go though, the lights invisible, but they're there. 5 red lights. And away we go. It's a good start for Dan. He should be uncontested heading down to turn 1 as he takes the racing line. You have Axel in the slipstream of Smalley. Very well behaved as they jostle for track position, but they all seem to be through safely side by side with Mr. Pop. And oh, is that Colin's gone round? He's nudged off the track. Heading into turn 3, keeps the car in a straight line, but he's lost a few track positions there.
Yeah, I did see the nudge for Colin. That was, I think, a racing incident there, as they both went side by side. Obviously, Colin came off worse, but he hasn't dropped that far. He's still in the top 10. But we've got a little bit of a battle for P10 with TTT Slash as he's battling in this pack. Oh, he's getting very impatient as they now will come up what would be the first DRS. Obviously, it won't be activated this lap, but Colin is also now battling back up the grid with CPI Reds. Yeah,
try to go side by side through turn 9 there, and Maledictus is going to go down the inside of those medium compound tires, so a good start. He runs very wide, and that's going to allow Slash to sleep through. Oh, he's lost the back end. Has he kept it? He just has. And Jefton also getting involved in his soft compound tires. A lot of near misses to start this race.
Yeah, I think the drivers are just finding each other out, obviously, because with this event, the same drivers may not race each week. Each race event, should I say. So they're just finding out. Obviously, new drivers may be racing against new drivers, as my leaderboard is really, from P12, kind of showing 1 minute 24. So that is incorrect. But I believe TTG Slash is roughly around about 7 tenths behind Colin. I don't know if that's the same on your screen.
It is for now anyways, but of course no DRS. These first 2 laps will be activated at the start of lap 3 and will be taking place for the first time down effects on lap 3 heading down towards turn 10. But a good start from Dan, good launch. Not always easy to keep pole position and maintain that P1 heading into turn 1, but he got a very good start and has allowed him to keep that position. But it's relatively unchanged in the top 5.
Yeah, I've just noticed that Hecht has dropped all the way down to the back of the grid, but it has made up a position on TTG Robin. So I wonder if there was some maybe possible incidents at the back of the grid. Obviously, we unfortunately did miss them, but it seems to be we are starting to form the DRS chains, which the DRS will be inactivated, I believe, on lap 3, as Dan and Axel are trading for the fastest lap point. So this could be where one of the main battles is for the remainder of the 30 laps that we have in Catalonia for the Spanish Grand Prix.
DRS is now enabled, and so you got ECOS Rag there. I'm sorry, that's incorrect. I'm just going to run with that. 1.2 seconds behind NSR Thomas, so that's where your train is going to really begin. And of course, you got the top 5 then in short pursuit. They're close, aren't they? They're close to making the runner for it. Between themselves, like Felix is just 9/10 behind Axel, so it is close in a couple of spots, and I can sense a move coming here with Slash on the back of Colin, hustling and harrying the ESW livery, and of course Colin is out of DRS and on his softs as well.
Yeah, Slash picks up a 3-second time penalty. The first one, his teammate has made a pit stop as well, and is some 29.2 seconds. I think Slash just needs to maybe calm down and just not be impatient. He is pushing on the door of, obviously, Colin Mason, but he might just want to make a, bit of a more smart decision and wait and then overtake, as now the DRS is in full activation. We are seeing multiple potential possible overtakes, but none down into turn 1.
Rag actually just got by Reds into turn 1. He'd actually lost the position with a very messy exit on coming out of turn 9. He lost the position to Reds, and then Maledictus was right there as well, but he's taken that place back as the ECOS driver, and Maledictus then on his mediums biding his time. Of course, just has to wait for those softs to drop off, and meanwhile, I saw a spin, and that's the ECOS Rag again. He's just really struggled to hold control of his car, and now is gone off the track, but Mr. Pop on the back of Felix. A big battle here for P4.
Yeah, as CPI Reds gets a time penalty, so that's the second driver with a penalty. I'm just... sector 2 yellow flags. That is Colin, I think. No, that's not. He's just getting overtaken by TTG Slash. I believe the mediums may be now coming into their optimal temperature round about the area that the drivers want them to be, as the soft compounds are maybe just dying off a little bit, but I reckon they are good for another 7 to maybe 8 laps.
Very easy overtake here for Mr. Pop as he moves by Felix, and Maledictus again going by Red, so he's again on his mediums, beginning to move up that pack now, and we've got Gott on the inside of Colin, who's slipped down the field a bit, leaves the space on the inside. Nice overtake there, moves him up into P10. So lots of chop and changes, and penalties are beginning to fly. We have our first retirement of the day, and the virtual safety car has been deployed.
Yep, as the virtual safety car has been deployed. I believe that was an on-track DNF.
I don't know where on the map he's just vanished.
No, I'm trying to... This is what I hate about Codemasters. They should leave the cars there for at least a minute, because they can ghost. So ECOS won't be getting any points this evening. That minus 15 will stay there. But I wonder if anybody can make it back to the pits, maybe. Some of these off-compound tyre drivers. Maybe just be a bold strategy and just go for it. And maybe go for an early pit stop and possibly go for a medium in case there is a safety car, or go for the hards in case there is another virtual. As the VSC has now been ended, hopefully nobody has a drive-through, as I know the Delta does go into the red a little bit at the VSC restart, so I don't think anybody has. Nope, they're just 3-second penalties So it looks to be all good at the moment.
Got past Iverbryn Mike heading on Jefton into, should be clear before turn 1. Gets that move done. The leaders had a very late chance to dive into the pits, but as we saw, there would have been no real advantage to be gained for them hopping in at that point. Just, I do wonder though, I do wonder if it was like 20 seconds longer perhaps. I wonder if some at the front may have been tempted, but not to be. It was, that temptation was very much taken away, as Reds hasn't given up this fight on Maledictus here. 4/10 behind, no DRS for Maledictus. I still think those softs are good for a number of laps still. I think just people are beginning to just have, some people are just struggling to maintain control of their car, but I do think those tyres are still good for another few laps. I wonder if we'll see Reds come back at Maledictus here heading down towards turn 1.
Yeah, it is an interesting battle at the front. We've got Mr. Pop in between the two NLR drivers. I just wonder, as NSR Thomas gets a 3-minute time penalty, if Axel is just going to be that buffer to let Felix 1 just get that move done on Mr. Pop and re-overtake, as Thomas is in the pits. So is I'm just trying to check who that is.
It's Gott, I believe. OWR Gott.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So some of the soft compound tyre drivers are making the pit stop for the medium compound tyre. So I don't know if that's because of wing change or not. But they are going to go for the mediums. I don't think they'll go to the end, as there is still, I believe, 23 laps, I think, if my maths is correct. So I don't think they'll last 23 laps.
It would be a long stretch. I think you're right. I think this does lean towards a two-stop. It keeps your options open as well if a safety car were to come out, and because hards could probably go to the end from here, so you keep your options open in any case. That's why I wouldn't Hecht started on hards, which was a bold choice. A, for his race start, because obviously you're on the hardest compound tyre compared to mediums and the one set soft around you, and they are a handful to warm up. But obviously you take away then you take away your options later in the race as well. But I have to say, Smalley looks a little bit closer towards Dan here, who breaks the toe very quickly, but Smalley isn't exactly following him into that toe, surprisingly.
No, and also NLR Axel is closing that gap as well. Obviously, Smalley didn't break the toe as they go through turn 1 and turn 2. This part of the track, you can, if you go wide, you can get a warning, or obviously if you've had the 2 warnings, there is a penalty coming, as the 2 ESW drivers have just done a team order switch, I believe, and Iverbryn Mike has gone up into P9, as I believe one of the NSR drivers, as he goes down the inside quite late on the brakes there, and he's going to split the 2 ESW drivers in for P10.
You don't see too many passes around there heading into turn 4, so good job from Pariah. Hecht also got by Atlascope, a little bit naughty, kind of squeezed him a little bit on the track there heading into turn 1, but this gap certainly at the front does not seem to be disappearing, and you'd have to say Smalley is probably in a bit of a race management mode at the moment. He's got 70-odd% ERS compared to Dan's 60-odd. So it's the margins are tight, but there's definitely management going on at the front here. Oh, Mr. Pop is in. So one of the front runners is taking an early dive and an undercut here. If you can emerge in clean air, certainly an undercut attempt would be interesting. Hard compound tyres, so keeping his options secure.
Yeah, I think the top runners may opt for the hard compound tyre just in case that safety car does come out. It could be an advantage if they do want to get it back up into a higher grid slot, obviously, for the safety car restart. But it seems to be alright at the moment, as Dan is, I think, dropping a little bit back, as Smalley is now under the DRS range of around about 4/10 as they come out of the DRS. As you said, he's got 70% of DRS. That can be quite powerful around the Spanish track in Catalonia.
Gotta really pick and choose your moment, though, I believe, when it comes to using energy. But Mr. Pop, I would say, has not caught a good place of track. He needs to get this move done on Atlas Scopo. He absolutely needs to before being stuck behind, possibly into turn into sector 3. And Smalley and Axel Pish side by side as Mr. Pop and Atlas Scopo. Can he get around the outside? This is absolutely not what he needs. But he finally gets the move done.
As I believe there was an incident, I just quite caught it, but then my camera went off of it. I believe, I can't find it now, but there was a spin from somebody coming through the last chicane, but I think they've gone into the pits now. As quite a few of the soft compound tyre drivers have gone for the hard. Oh, as there's a little bit of an action between Hecht and Smalley. Smalley came out of the pits. It was like Monza. Oh, as Hecht has spun.
No contact. I think he just lost the back end.
Yeah, I think the hards may have played a factor in there. They may have been just a little bit too warm against somebody who's got fresh hards. That could have been all sector 2 yellow flags. I think Hector's gone for another spin. No, as Smalley's gone for a spin. Ow, and he's reset to track. That was very close. As Hecht has retired on the track, I believe that is going to cause a safety car.
Oh, golden time then for Dan and Felix to box. Right there as well. Oh, Dan wasn't able to. He was too far in front of the Oh, that's gonna be disastrous because is he going to pick up the safety car? No, safety car is behind him, so Dan will be okay from that point of view. If he picked up the safety car, he would have been in big trouble. Everyone still has to adhere to the delta until he picks up the safety car.
Yeah, so I think it will be in the driver's ears as we hear it so much in Lewis Hamilton's ears. It will be that box to box. So, as quite a few of the drivers, I think maybe some of the hard compound drivers that have made a pit stop may just go for the mediums. As quite a few of them on the hard compound tyres, should I say, are now going to potentially switch to the mediums because they will last.
Very possibly so. Lots of people into the pits. A lot of hard compound tyres going on. Felix actually just popped out behind his teammate there, Axel. So I would say that's worked out very nicely for NLR. And they are now 2 and 3. And Smalley has survived his spin, but has lost track position to Mad Dictus, who's probably the big winner in all of this, it seems, as he ditches his mediums to go onto the hard compound tyres. The only people not on the hards are Dan, who we expect to box coming up here, and Gotte on the medium compound tyres. I wonder if he might take the opportunity to box himself.
Yeah, Dan is in the pits. Does this potentially compromise, as he is going to fall down the grid order? Well, potentially. Spain, I believe, is quite a long pit straight. So just debating where his pit it's going to be tight. It's
going to be
tight.
He's
in the pit, so he's gone for the hards. As the pit lines are glitching.
Oh, he's fine. That's very, very clear. You can see how much he would have gained if that had been like a VSC, for example. So very comfortably rejoins in the lead. Of course, the others have been stuck to their delta, and obviously track position. He stayed out longer, didn't make his box, and of course now he'll pick up the safety car.
Yeah, as we are now under safety car, so obviously there will be no overtaking, and I believe there'll be no DRS again for the first 2 laps, I believe. So it is going to be an interesting one for the laps that come after the safety car. TTG Slash has got himself up to P7. This also will give Slash's teammate TTG Robin that reset button of coming back into the race. Obviously, he is currently 15.2 behind NSR Thomas, but it just gives a few of the drivers that reset button, let them calm down, maybe get a quick drink, and just kind of get back into the race.
Absolutely. If anything, if I was him, I would consider boxing for mediums at the back there, because it's the one unfortunate consequence of this safety car is that everyone now is on the same strategy. They're going to the end of the race. Should no more safety cars materialize themselves, it's a risk, but it also if another safety car were to come out, then you do limit your options. So again, it's this constant kind of back and forth of strategy and what you could or should do. It is a fascinating kind of league racing wrinkle that is you have to constantly be on your toes thinking about.
Yeah, and I think with Spain, the safety car restart is so important.
Tough.
Getting down to turn one, especially coming out of that final chicane, as I've seen quite recently with Austria, the safety car is now taking the curbs like the actual F1 cars would. So it is quite interesting to see how the F1 car does take it. Obviously, we haven't got the green Aston Martin safety car, which is in the new update. We are treated to the red Mercedes, which is obviously the safety car that is mainly used in F1, but we do sometimes get treated to that fantastic, I must say, the green Aston Martin.
It is very tasty, but you bring up a really good point about that last corner, because I find this track in particular, I find warming the tyres on the safety car to be extremely difficult, because that sector 3, it's not like Silverstone, for example. You have a nice big long hanger straight to warm your tyres up that straight before the end of the lap. It's a twisting sector 3 here, and you can't really get on the throttle too much, because you could easily lose it under a safety car if you get too exuberant on that throttle. And these hard compound tyres only add to the warm difficulty, so I would hazard to guess we could see quite a few kind of position changes, as we are likely to see in a moment here, because safety car is going to peel in at the end of this lap. So that means Dan is the de facto safety car. It is up to him to set a consistent pace, and it is up to him as to when we get racing once again.
Yeah, he is going to get us back under racing for lap that will commence very shortly. If you were in Dan's position, where would you go? Would you wait till you're out of that corner? Obviously, being on the hard compound tires, especially fresh ones, I think myself, I would wait until, as the safety car is in, I'm going to get back under racing. I will hand you over to Graham for that safety car restart.
Good job. Oh, Axel's lost it into the barrier. He's out of the race. Exactly what we were talking about. The warm-up, the tyres absolutely gave up on him. Maledictus side by side against Mr. Pop as well. Around the outside heading to turn 1, terrible camera angle. And Mr. Pop goes over the curve, gets himself a 3-second penalty, but Maledictus is through. Axel is out. And see if, running very wide is Mr. Pox, very, very wide, as Jefton and Pariah. And Mike is involved too, a bit of scrap there for P8. Jefton moving through. Now it's up to him into P8, but Colin on the back of Pariah well. So there we have ESW action here to begin this restart, but terrible restart there, you'd have to say, for Axel. Like we just mentioned, the tyres just absolutely gave up on him heading out of that final turn.
Yeah, I do wonder if... Oh, sector 2 yellow flags. That is Jefton. Yeah. I just wonder if he put the throttle in the car on cold, hard compound tyre. I just wonder if that was... And obviously with this new patch, it is prone to a spin, because I believe he is a no ABS driver. He might not be, I'm not quite sure. So I think that is, and it just caught Mr. Pop unaware, and I think it's a tricky one because you are on a fresh compound tyre. It is going to be a cold tyre as well. As Dan really using the track coming out of turn 1, he uses the full outside of the track. It just looks like he's in a world of his own. Nobody can touch him. The beauty of having clean air at the front, I'm sure he's enjoying. But he's got, again, slender margin, but now it is Felix who is the car behind him, and Maledictus then in third. I have to say Odegaard Gotte is putting the pressure on Slash. He's on medium, so perhaps at the moment that's a tyre that has the advantage, as CPI Reds and Colin side by side heading through turn 7-8. Don't see this too often. Very, very close to contact. In fact, there was contact. He's left the car in there, and he's very lucky not to be sent round. Is Colin a bit of an ambitious move? But here comes Atlascopo on the outside. Might be tough to make an overtake heading into this hairpin.
and I think Colin's going to keep that position for the time being, but certainly he can be counted very lucky that he didn't end up sideways spinning through turn 9 there.
Yeah, I think coming out that DRS zone, because of the DRS, it's kind of like if you don't brake early enough, you are going to just carry on, as DRS is enabled. So we have a few position changes, as I think TTG / looked for the move, but the door was firmly closed on him as they went into turn 2 and then into turn 3.
Yeah, Mr. Pop got by Maledictus as well, heading well clear turn 1. His teammate then, Smalley, right behind. So Maledictus just seems to be struggling a little bit for a bit of pace at this phase of the race. He's lost one position and on the cusp of losing another, perhaps. As you mentioned, DRS is now enabled. Felix is just marginally out of that DRS range on Dan, and we just seen Mr. Pop overtake Maledictus. You can see the gap that had grown there was 2 seconds.
Yeah, I think the car, obviously the only QVR driver, he is trying to break that toe from Smalley, as he was moving to the other side of the track, as CPI Reds is having a bit of a battle as they go through the S part of the track, which can throw you into the wall if you don't get that corner right, as they now come through the final part of the track, which is that very tricky S section, as we saw them come out of it now, where NLR Axel did DNF, but it looks like we've got a battle up for P4 as Smalley negotiates through turn 1 and 2 as he gets past the QVI driver.
Oh, Colin's gone for the move on Pariah. A very nice move there, it looked like, around the outside, turning into the inside, and that is him up into P10. Very simple move for Smalley then in the end. Maledictus just seems to be struggling for pace at this phase of the race, and now the two TRT cars are now ahead of him. There's a right ding-dong here for P10. Reds has gone up the road, as we saw, but we got Pariah, Atlas Scopo, Thomas, and Robin not too far behind this action too.
Yeah, I think now it's going to get to the interesting part where we see the hard compound tyres come into that optimal area. I think the mediums, that's playing it risky. I don't think that was the right tyre to stay on. He should have pitted, but obviously he is the driver, so we'll leave it up to him as we stay in the comms box, in the nice warm comms box. Obviously, we are keeping 2 meters apart due to COVID rules, but Smalley sets the fastest lap in the race with a 1:18.7.
They're closing the gap to Felix, and I wonder if they might consider a swap of cars here. Might TRT, if Smalley's got that kind of pace and his teammate not in the DRS range, so there's an opportunity to do it, and Maledictus is 1.3 behind, so it's definitely a window to swap. I wonder if they might consider doing that. Soon to give TRT a chance to get after Felix, especially with Mr. Pop having a penalty as well in that equation too.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. This pack from P7 to, I think it might be down to, yeah, I think it's right down to the back of the grid. They are kind of in that DRS train, as you mentioned. But it just seems so close, obviously with the penalties playing a factor as well. As I believe CPI Reds went on the move for Ivor Bryn Mike, and I believe he's got the move done. He has. So the two ESW drivers are now in P9 and P10.
Nice overtake heading down in towards turn 10, DRS assistance, and that is as Reds then up into P8. Now I wonder if these TRT cars will swap. Doesn't look like anything is coming, and again I'm surprised at the handling of this at this stage, because again Smalley continues to pull away from Maledictus. They both are, but that gap from Dan to Felix is beginning to extend. It's now 2 seconds, and I wonder again if they would be better off swapping those positions.
Yeah, it kind of plays into a team order situation. Obviously, these are esports teams, as we know. So it's kind of the question, well, is my teammate behind me, is he setting faster lap times? is he gonna be faster to catch the driver in front than me? It's kind of that Lewis Hamilton Bottas situation where Bottas isn't up to kind of the pace, obviously, as Lewis Hamilton, but he can be that kind of buffer. Obviously, we know in Russia that wasn't the case, but it may just be that they may use one driver as a buffer and one to potentially attack the driver in front and just get themselves up the grid.
I think in a teammate scenario, you always, deep down, you always know which one is faster. If it's you, if it's not you.
Yeah.
And part of that is just letting go of that pride if you're the slower car in front. I personally think Smalley would be better served ahead of Mr. Pop here, based on what looks like pace and penalties. And I can't help but feel that frustration might be building, that perhaps his teammate isn't quite recognising the bigger picture here.
As Jefferson gets a 3-second time penalty, multiple drivers now with the track limit corner cutting penalties. I just wonder, obviously, with what you mentioned, maybe qualifying comes into a situation like that. As we've seen with Haas after the Dutch Grand Prix, they alternate between each week's who is going to be that leading driver, who is going to be that one that will take that second spot. So I just wonder if TRT are doing that, if they are just going to, use each other as a tow just to pull in Felix 1 and Dan eventually in the last 13 laps.
Well, they are within the DRS of Felix now. Gap is 2.3, but both cars, you'd have to say, are far too far behind to be really making a move. But who isn't as far behind is Slash on Gotte here for P6. Reels in the OWR, and he's not really going to defend this, is he? He's going to go for it. Thinks better of it. But hey, you have to say, with those mediums now 13 laps old, you have to say it seems like a matter of when rather than if Slash gets that move done.
Yeah, Slash has been making some impressive moves. He has been quite impatient this evening, but he has got the moves done in a respectable way, obviously. So it is an interesting one. He is on lap 9 hards, which are worn obviously in now. So the tyres will be coming into that kind of area where they can get the max grip. Oh, as he has massive understeer coming into the DRS zone. So that is not going to help him, and he doesn't get the move coming out of the DRS, as I think that understeer did not help.
Though he seems to be setting it up quite nicely for a run heading down towards turn 1. If he can get a good exit, he'll be in a good spot. Just about 5/10, 6/10 behind. Is that going to be too far? We'll see. He's got very little ERS. They both have, to be fair. Smalley having a bit more, using a bit more to try and stay behind, but it looks like Mr. Pop is going to make this move on Felix, and simple routine move in the end. Mr. Pop moves up into P2, and he's got just under 3 seconds to try and set off after Dan. But again, that penalty is going to create a bit of a problem in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I just wonder if the OWR driver is just trying to defend for his life, because he is on the medium compound tyre. They are 14 lap old, and I just wonder if Slash is going to wait until he pits, because I don't think their mediums will go another 12 laps potentially.
It'd be a stretch. It'd be certainly very impressive if you can make that work. But plenty of time still to go. Of course, he could bolt on a set of softs now and they would go to the end easily, but of course he would lose a lot of track position and he might not be able to make it up, given how still relatively bunched cars are. I mean, you look at the leader, only 25 seconds really cover the entire field, so not too far away, as Felix looks like he's trying to make a move back on Mr. Pop, who covers the inside line, and just straight, not quite long enough for him to make that move.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the saying of, obviously, no road left, unfortunately, there for Felix. But I believe Felix will get him in the next up-and-coming DRS, as it seems to be this battle for P2 now, as Dan is well out of the DRS range, as he's currently 2.9 in front. I believe Mr. Pop can just see him in his front mirrors, but he is in the distance now. I think it will be a fight for second place on the grid.
Yeah, very much so. Comfortable 3-second lead, and he's got a good amount of ERS that these guys behind certainly wouldn't be boasting. So it's looking good for Mr. Pop, and of course that penalty, or sorry, it's for Dan rather, and that penalty for Mr. Pop, I should say, is keeping a nice protective buffer behind him. And you'd have to wonder how much things might be different if Axel was still in this race, because these two teams are very closely matched here. It's a shame we lost the other NLR car, because it was certainly a very interesting team battle, but now it is 2 versus 1. But for now, let's see, this could be a good chance for Felix. Again, is the straight long enough? He's not committed to using his ERS, and I don't know whether he would have been best served saving it or using it, but regardless, he's still behind Mr. Pop there for P2.
Yeah, I do apologise there for the little interruption. But we are gonna, I think, see a possibly 10-lap battle between the top 3, maybe 4, if Smalley and the QVR driver can get into this battle as well. I don't think we will have another safety car unless somebody does have an incident. Hopefully they don't, as we want to keep the remaining 15 drivers on the track, as we now will head into the last 9 laps.
It's very much been kind of quiet really since the safety car restart. There's a lot of cars in close proximity, and there have been for a while, but nothing really doing in terms of cars making impressions. A few overtakes here and there, but I still can't help but feel that TRT have squandered this somewhat now that these two cars are once again have a NLR driver split in between, because Felix can stay behind Mr. Pop until the end of the race, and he's still gaining P2, and Smalley, having no penalties, is still stuck behind Felix, and he may jump his teammate, but again, I'm sure there'll be perhaps a, I don't want to say heated debrief, but certainly a debrief nevertheless as to why those two cars weren't switched when they are. We do have a rare overtake though at the Scopo and Pariah heading down towards turn 1.
Yeah, I think it's the situation of TRT where, note that move hasn't been completed, but Slash is right on the back of that OVR driver, as there's a battle at the back of the grid for P12, which is, I believe, one of the NSR drivers, and Jeffton. But I'm going to keep on board with TTG Slash. He's right on the back. Is he going to go for the move? He goes for it. He's going to go for it late on the brakes, but does not get the move done. I think he is now going to get impatient. Sector 2 yellow flags.
Yeah, there was a lot of side-by-side action heading in Sector 2 while you were watching Slash, and the VSC is deployed. And if I was OWR GOT, this is an absolute gift. May not keep all those track positions, but this is certainly as good as it's going to get in terms of a chance to change tyres, you'd have to imagine. Yes, he is diving into the pits, and I wonder if he can pop out. I wonder if he'll pop out, but it was an absolute mess back there. There was Jeff then going deep into turn 5 on Pariah, then Thomas slipped through. I think Atlas Scopo should have been far enough ahead of those guys, so I think he may have just, if I had to guess, he may have just lost it on his own, because he had just cleared, he'd just overtaken that group of cars, so he should have been through. But no surprise that the soft compound tires are going on to that OWR. And where will he emerge? He's got a decent number of laps to get stuck in. That's a good track position, relatively speaking. He should be able to get those positions back, and we are green flag racing once again.
Yeah, as Robin from TTG also goes on to the soft, so I wonder if they are going to now try and go for the fastest lap, because obviously that does award a point, as the other OWR driver has gone for the medium compound tire. So I think he may just be going for the rest of the race for the 9 laps. If I was in his position, I would have gone for the soft, but he may have already used them.
Possibly. In qualifying may have used it. Again, it comes back to strategy in terms of what you want to keep for the race, because you never quite know how it's going to unfold. But now we're going to see Gotte see how he can get through the field. He'll be impatient to make some of these moves because he's on a much quicker tyre and a tyre that will easily last to the end of the race too. So let's see what kind of pace he has. Be interested to see where he ends up, because he hasn't got any penalties either, which is he's put himself in a very interesting position here. Should there be a late safety car, he would be in an absolute golden position. His only issue, only not including the traction issues, is that the car in front of him has got DRS. Now he should be able to be clear as Thomas goes to the move on. Jefton can follow him through. Yes, he'll sweep to the inside. A bit of contact, it's a little messy. Oh, and he goes to get the penalty that he should have been trying to avoid. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, going back to the top three, Mr. Pop, it's like that situation with Lewis Hamilton. I think it was Monaco. It was just, he was fast, but couldn't keep behind the car because of that. Yeah, as TTG / gets a 3 second time, and I believe that might be his second penalty this evening. I will just double check. That is his second, as NSR Thomas has the most penalties with Jefton on 9 seconds. The two ESW drivers have 3 and a 5 second penalty. So from P5 to P13, the whole grid could just change.
Yeah, again, a late safety car, and the whole thing flips on its head. But the only drivers who don't have penalties are, 1, 3 and 4, and then you got to go back to 14th and 15th for the other non-penalty runners. Again, Smalley, another fastest lap from it. I think I was an 18-1, and he just can't do anything about it, because now arguably his teammate is not, again, kind of doing his racing a little bit as Gotte gets by Thomas very easy into turn 1, because Felix is getting that DRS off of Mr. Pop. And if that wasn't there, perhaps Smalley might be able to make an overtake, but he is within that DRS as Robin then sets the fastest lap of the race, an 18 flash. I can't help but wonder if Gotte might be able to go quicker now that he is in clear air, though.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. I think the issue is the dirty. Yeah. Oh, set the 2 yellow flags.
Oh, Jefton's out.
Jefton has retired, and a safety car. This is now where it's going to get interesting.
And Dan's coming in. Dan is boxing. I wonder if everyone else, Mr. Pop follows him. Felix, late call from Felix, stays out. Smalley is going to box though. They should be able to rejoin, I'd say behind / potentially. Maledictus is coming in. So Felix carries on.
This is the kind of situation that I think refers back to the Lando Norris Russia. He has ignored the team call to come into the pits, obviously, as we saw the late move to not go into the pits for the soft, because he wouldn't double stack it, because his teammate is not in the race. As look at that, everybody is in the pits for them soft compound tyres. This may be a disadvantage to the 2 drivers that did go for the soft tyres 2 laps early, because they will be 2 lap worn already, as Felix 1 is going to stick with the hards. I think that may have been the wrong decision.
Yeah. Gotte actually, again, I don't think that'll matter too much at this stage of the race. Again, those softs can easily go 10, 11 laps in an end stint, so I think Gotte will be fine. He's made up a lot of track position into 5th here, which will do him a lot of good. Felix is a tough one, because Dan was the one with the big decision to make, because the first car always has the biggest decision to make at this for a safety car like this, because if he doesn't come in, the rest do, and possibly vice versa. But when he makes that decision to come in, everyone else almost has to kind of commit. And with Felix being behind, being able to make that choice, having seen others come into the pits, and now it turns out him and Thomas are the only ones that haven't, it's going to be extremely tough for him these final, about to head on to lap 30, so final 3 laps potentially, depending if people catch up in time.
Yeah, I think maybe the NSR situation is kind of more, they want the track position for Thomas, as he's got 9 second penalties, so pitting him wouldn't be really beneficial with 3 laps to potentially go, as they are going to go on to lap 30. I wonder if we are going to have maybe 2-3 laps of racing. You might as well say it is a sprint race, which obviously earlier on in the season at the Silverstone Grand Prix, well, the British Grand Prix, should I say, and the Italian Grand Prix. But it is going to happen in Spain tonight for the EML League 2 for the Spanish track. Just obviously a quick mention on the calendar situation. On the 27th of October, the EML 4 League 2 will return, and we are off to the Azerbaijan track for the Baku. So that is going to be interesting. Hopefully nobody does a Lewis Hamilton and goes completely off into turn 1 on a restart.
A couple of drivers to really watch here as we get. There's going to be a big battle at the front, but a couple of drivers to keep an eye on that kind of won't get mentioned until the checker flag. Iverbrin Mike has no penalties in 11th. Robin, no penalties in 13th. Atlas Scopo, no penalties in 14th when he eventually catches up. Flashed on screen the penalty situation. Mostly 3 seconds for most people, but there's a slash 6 seconds, and Thomas has 12. So as long as those guys, Mike, Robin, Atlas Scopo, can keep it clean, they have a fantastic chance to jump a lot of positions, because there's not going to be a lot of time to really escape in these final 3 laps, maybe even 2 laps if the safety car, because it doesn't look like it's going to come in as Atlas Scopo has not caught up, so we're going to be getting a 2-lap sprint here to finish this race.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. I do believe Felix is going to try, because there'll be no DRS, so it's just going to be on raw pace and the ERS, and everybody, I believe, will have turned the ERS off, well, down to using none. So they're going to be harvesting like mad going into the final 2 laps, as the safety car is still out. It is on lap 31 of 33, so it is going to be a 2-lap sprint as they are now going to come. I just wonder why Felix is taking the curbs as he's coming through turn 1 and turn 2. He was taking the curb. I don't know why he's doing that, but I think it's just going to be a pace game. If Dan can get them softs going and he can get them into the optimal temperature for that safety car restart, I just don't think Felix has anything to battle with. He's on 19 lap hards. You know, would you defend that against somebody on fresh softs?
I would never defend a losing battle, but here's the good news for Felix. He's only got 2 laps. There's 5 cars behind him on softs before there's another run on hards. If he can survive the first few corners without being utterly swamped, he's got a chance to, I think, still hold on for a podium, because he doesn't have any penalties. The guys behind him do have penalties, including Mr. Pop. So there are a certain number of cars that can get by him, and he could still hold on to a podium here. So all might not be lost for Felix, but I do think the win probably is away from him. The other key, as the safety car comes in, the other key factor here is Thomas. There's a lot of obviously he's on 19 lap old hards, a lot of drivers behind him, a lot of drivers that will have to absolutely negotiate him very, very quickly. It's going to be key to some of their races back there with penalties in the fray. So he's going to be one to watch as well. But we are getting ready to go once again, and Felix hoping he can get a better tyre warm-up than his teammate did under the first safety car.
Yeah, as they are now going to come through the last chicane, Felix is just going to get us underway very shortly. His safety car restart will be key, as Smalley gets a 5-second penalty with an incident with his teammate, as Felix is now going to get us back on the racing, as we are now going to have a 2-lap sprint as they now go to turn 1, as they now run down into turn 1. It looks like Dan is going to back off a little bit. He's going to wait for that move, but Felix 1 is going to keep in P1 at the moment, but Dan is applying the pressure, as there seems to be a battle for P8 as CPI Reds goes into P8 and NSR Thomas goes for P9, but it looks like Dan is going to go round the outside. Is he going to get it? He gets pushed a little bit off the track, but he is going to go for the battle. Ooh. They are battling for the race lead in EML League 2, but Felix 1 keeps the position for the moment. There is no DRS, but Mr. Pop is right on the back of Dan, as well as there's a battle at the back of the track at the moment. We are going to keep on board with the front of this pack, as there is no DRS, as they would be using it as they are now coming through the DRS zone, but it is not activated at the moment. As Felix 1, look at the train behind him at the moment. He is literally in a race to the finish for his life, as they now come through the last section of the track. It is now going to be a last lap dash for the drivers in the EML League 2 as they are now going to cross the line for the last lap. And it looks like Dan is going to use the slipstream and the toe. Is he going to get the move down? Is he going to go down the inside? He doesn't. The door gets closed on him there as they now come into turn 1. And they negotiate that very successfully. They come through. Oh, as Dan gets a little bit of understeer and he hits the curb. As now Mr. Pop is going to go round the outside. But he doesn't get the move done as Dan looks to be... Yep, he's got the move secured there. And he keeps into P2, but that was a little mistake there from Dan as they now come through into what will be a very crucial part of the track. It can cause spins, as we've already seen Dan nearly have a spin as they will now come through. I believe it is turn 9. It might be turn 8, I believe. As Ivor Bryn Mike gets his first penalty of the day, and Felix 1 is now in a more comfortable situation as he has negotiated one section of the track that can cause the overtakes, as he is now going to come through the last section. Oh, safety, no, sector 3 yellow flags. That is one of the QVR drivers, as Felix 1 is now going to come across the line and he is going to take the provisional race win in EML League 2, and that is him for the race win, with BNL Dan taking P2, with Mr. Pop taking P3. Then we have Smalley in P4. And I will hand you over to Graham for the rest of the race results.
Yes, there's a frantic finish there, I have to say. Dan, I have to say Felix a little naughty on his defence into turn 5 on lap 32. Definitely came across Dan's line a bit there. I'm sure Dan would not have been too pleased, but ultimately the bold strategy call ended up working out for Felix. Still to hang on for those 2 laps. Stern defence into turn 5, and the DRS not being enabled there was absolutely key, of course, and there was enough time for it to be enabled once again. And Dan, you have to say, if he hadn't had to get defensive, having made that mistake on the last lap there into turns 1 and 2, may have still had a chance to overtake Felix, but well, a bold call, but it ended up working out for Felix, who takes the checkered flag provisionally in first place, ahead of Dan in second. Mr. Pop then finishes in third. Smalley, with his 5-second penalty, finishes in fourth place. OWR got in fifth place then, ahead of TTG Robin, who again, like I mentioned, had no penalties, and that was to his enormous credit. He jumped up the standings there into P6. OWR Atlas Scopo in 7th, NSR Pariah in 8th. Atlas Scopo jumping up some places with penalties as well. Colin then for ESW in 9th place. Reds then for CPI around the top 10. In 10th, that last lap penalty for Iberber Mike consigned him to 11th. Maledictus 12th. Thomas 13th/14th. And we lost Jefton, Axel Hecht and Ecos Rag.
Yeah, fantastic race there which is my EML debut for the commentary side. Fantastic race finish for the Spanish Grand Prix. When we come back in roughly around about a month's time, we will be back for round 3, which is the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. But the action doesn't stop here in EML. The other groups, which is, I believe, League 1 and above, will be underway very shortly, and I believe one has gone live as we speak. So if you do like the stream that myself and Graham have given you tonight, then do hit that like button and do hit that subscribe button and do watch all the rest of the action that is in the League Racing TV channel. TTML F3 will be back tomorrow. Then you've got TTML F4 and F5 on Friday, where I will be on the comms box for F3 and F4. And I believe, Graham, you are racing tomorrow in F3, I believe, or is it F4 for yourself?
F4 would normally be on Friday for me, but I am unable to be there this week, so it should be looking forward to seeing it back though, nevertheless. But like you said, my thanks for watching. That was a pretty entertaining race as it turned out, and the action, as you said, isn't over. The email premiere, I believe, is ongoing, so you can check that out. But from myself and Storm, Thank you very much, and until next time.